Zoomers, Boomer Zoomers, Boomer Zoomers. Connecting through Zoom is the way to go. So let's dive right in. It's Boomer Zoomers.
Well, that was a great segment with Carolyn Bolton. In fact, I'm even going to ask our Boomer Zoomers in just a second about that. I wonder if they are interested in potentially taking advantage of a charitable deduction, tax exempt write-off that they might not know they're entitled to. So anyway, it's now our favorite time of the week, or every other week, when we go down to the Charlestown Senior Center, and we're back with our Boomer Zoomers. Hey, by the way, what'd you guys think of that new jingle? Bill Isabella, Kathy Cronin, Ken McCourt, welcome.
I think it is super fantastic. I love it. Absolutely love it. Good for you. Nice job.
It's a good job, and it's needed, and it seems very good.
Yeah. Are there any special steps to the dance to the jingle?
Well, I think you'll have to go to Oklahoma for that, because for those of you who don't know, that little Boomer Zoomer jingle we just did was modeled after the Boomer Sooner fight song for the University of Oklahoma. So anyway, all right, Bill, tell us who's.
May I just interrupt you? Ken, if you want, you can click your heels and it might take you to Oklahoma. So three times though, you gotta do it 3 times. There you go. Anyway.
Oh, all right. I thought
All
it'd
right,
take
Bill,
back to
who's
Ireland.
with you today?
Hi, to my immediate left is a lovely Kathy Croner. And to the left of her is, well, you decide, not so lovely, Ken McCourt, as usual. Ken is a regular with us fairly often. Kathy has been with us before, so we know what's going on.
Ken, what cap you got on today for us?
All right. Today is Stripers Forever. Make it a game fish. By the way, for those fishermen out there, they are catching stripers off of the Charlestown Breachway.
Right now. All right, good. All right, Bill, you've got 3 topics. You got a Pete Hegseth piece from Fox News. You've got something about the mortgages and something about the Title 42. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with the crisis in the classroom as seen with Pete Hegseth a few nights ago, last week or something, I forget.
All right, here's a still picture of that, brainwashing our kids. Where do you guys want to go with that?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that things like hypersexuality in the classroom today, I think it's getting way out of hand here. I mean, just take a look at what's happening to young girls, for instance. A recent study says that 1/3 of all girls are having suicidal thoughts, and that's higher than it's ever been before. So we've got to do something about this. It's gotten way out of hand. We're taking the responsibility of raising our children and usurping the parents and making that the responsibility of the schools. And of course, the schools are unfortunately doing their woke teaching, CRT, 1619, et cetera, et cetera. We need to get that back again. They're taking a paragraph, if not a whole chapter, right out of the Marxist playbook, when our president stands in front of the country on a dais and says that they're not your children so much as they are all of our children. They are not. The children belong to the parents, period.
That's right. Kathy, here's the question. Who's brainwashing our kids, in your opinion? I don't know if you saw, but the city of Providence is suing big tech social media companies, saying it's all that influence that's making the kids emotionally less stable. I've been arguing for months that it's the school system itself that's playing a major role in that. Of course, you got the violent and over-sexualized video games and music industry and all that. Who do you think is most responsible, Kathy, for this harming of our children?
I think it's all of the above, but I also consider that parents in general are uncontrollable, whereas governments and schools and officials of various kinds and various levels are to some degree controllable. They want the kids to be under their control, and to grow the way they want to. Now, who they is, I've been trying to figure out for a long time, but it goes way, way up. And they are very hidden, but and they keep themselves hidden. I have an idea who they are, but they're way higher. The chain of command goes way up.
Ken, I would also argue that either or weak parents are to blame? I mean, you can have all the societal pressures you want in school, on the internet, but I think if you have a good, strong family foundation to teach you morals, that should be hard to overcome. How much of a role do absentee parents, do you think, play in all this?
I think that part of the problem is that either the parents have actively denied responsibility for teaching the kids themselves at home, that it used to be called the birds and the bees, if you remember. Now it's all sex education or gender identity. That I remember when my father taught me about the birds and the bees, I went outside to do some yard work. I got stung by a bee. I thought I was pregnant.
Oh, Ken. Now you know why he's here so often.
Bill,
Look, your magic twanger, Froggy, you know?
but ultimately, ultimately, isn't this a question of parental rights and what's the responsibility of schools and the government, and what's the responsibility of families?
I'll disagree with you on that point, Mike. Unfortunately, most parents are more than willing to allow their children to be brought up by the state. We have pre-K. We have so many things. We have a woman who's no longer worth anything unless she's working a full-time job. I mean, and we've got families that think that they can successfully raise children without the presence of a 24/7 father. So our culture has changed so much in the last 30, 40, 50 years or so that we have families that are not being brought, we have children that are not being brought up by any family, let alone the mother and father. So do we turn over the responsibility to them? So is this a potato thing? Is this something that our society is crumbled to a point where government has to take over, or do we blame the government for creating this situation? That's really the crux of the matter here.
And he's absolutely correct in that. And I also want to add that people will, because it's human nature, and they will concede responsibility of raising their own children to somebody else if they can. Unfortunately, people at this day and age, and maybe forever, have always done what they can to absolve themselves of responsibility. And to me, a person that decides to have children, it should be a decision, and they should think about the responsibility. And there is a lot of responsibility involved, and they should be willing to take it on.
Ken, the left will say that when we push back on this over-sexualization in our classrooms, that we're all about banning books. What do you say to that?
Well, it depends on the book. If there was a devil worship book out there, I would think not so much ban it, but have it in a separate section of the library, preferably underground.
Bill, as opposed to banning
I gotta
books,
stop, Ken.
Ken, I keep having a good question for you, Bill, then Ken knocks me completely off track
I'm
with
sure he
one of
does.
his,
That's really intense.
one of his silly
Mike?
jokes. But
Why do you think
isn't the
Peter?
question? But when they say, why do you want to ban books? Shouldn't the response be, well, why do you feel it's so important to put this perverse content in front of young kids? Isn't that really the right question to ask?
That absolutely 100% is the right question to ask. Now, for instance, Catcher in the Rye. I read that in high school, and it was salacious at the time. Well, today that's mild compared, but take a look at what they've done to other books. How about Mark Twain book? They had to remove the N word from the book because it was offensive. Well, when did Mark Twain write that book? Tom Sawyer? How many years ago? How many decades ago? 100 years ago or something? So they talk out of both sides of their mouths. They only want to be served what they want to serve up. They don't want to have a totalitarian. They want to have a totalitarian view of anything and everything the kids learn today, and that's a big part of the problem as well.
All right, that's right. Let's move on, Kathy. The
That's
next
good.
topic. The next topic you guys sent me was this big controversy nationally about the Biden administration and the Treasury Department's new rules on mortgages. They seem like if you've worked hard and established good credit, they want to punish you by charging you a higher fee, and they want to use that to subsidize lowering mortgage fees for those with lesser credit. Isn't that precisely backwards?
Yeah.
It is backwards, as is much of what Biden does. But I find that this is again, it's a matter of social and self-responsibility, and people should not buy houses that can't afford them. People should not raise kids that can't afford to have them. I'm not saying that you have to be wealthy to do these things. You have to be committed to them. One way or another, you will be committed to raising your kids, even if it means giving up something that you might do otherwise. I do feel that the mortgage situation in general, like everything else, is incredibly, incredibly lopsided.
Ken, I don't assume you're in the market for buying a house, but what would you think about that back in the day, that you work hard, you establish good credit score, and then you get penalized by the government for that?
Well, I personally feel that if you cannot learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. We had the same thing back in 2008, 2009 with the so-called housing bubble then, that instead of it being worded the way it is today, Obama was pressuring Fannie Mae and Fannie Mac to be able to extend mortgage loans to these people who could not afford it, so that they could realize this so-called American dream of house ownership. And then we had all these defaults that were like dominoes practically. These people could not afford houses. And that's what's going to happen here. You give mortgages to people who technically cannot afford it, they're going to default on it. May last for a while, a couple of months, a year maybe, but eventually they're going to default on it, and we're worse than back to square one. We're not even out of the box.
Yeah, I agree. Bill, is this an item you discussed with your group, and
Yes,
what do you have to say about
There's
this?
a group in front of me. What my 2 cents on this is, where is the rest of the mainstream media? Are they reporting on this? The answer is no. I've looked. They may have made a mention of it, but this is something that I think if most people realize, they'd be incensed by it, but they're not. So this is another method by which the Marxists in our government make it easy for someone to obtain something that they would not ordinarily be able to obtain. In addition to the fact, of course, as Kathy pointed out, it's just grossly unfair. Grossly unfair. But the media is mostly silent on this, is also disconcerting to me.
Yeah.
I'll have one thing quick too, that I find that responsibility is something that's punished in the society by our powers that be. Responsibility for many things, and that's unfortunate now that they are choosing to honor the irresponsible laws.
Yeah, and I agree. The great American free market system, capitalistic system, is on the basis of merit, right? You work hard, you earn something, you succeed, you earn the benefits. Instead, this administration wants to punish you. All right, let's go to your third topic you guys sent me, and that has to do with your concern over what's going to happen a week from today on May 11th.
May 11th, yeah.
COVID-42 ban at the southern border ends. What are your concerns about this? Let's start with Ken.
Sure, you want to start with me?
Yes.
Because personally, I think we need to have a second Mexican-American war.
Oh.
For what purpose, Ken?
Jesus, yeah.
For what purpose, Ken? To take out the cartels? What?
We're already in a war with the cartels, and that their base of operation is Mexico.
You know,
So-
I just got done reading the first portion of Grant's memoirs, and he talks about the Mexican War. I didn't even realize that in the late 1840s and early 1850s, we had penetrated so deep, and actually we were in the capital city. We could have taken the whole city, but instead we backed out. We agreed to buy some land and all that from them. But I didn't realize, I thought we just kind of fought that in Texas. I didn't realize our armies went so far deep into Mexico. I agree. I wouldn't mind taking out a few cartel drug centers. Bill, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think my thoughts on this subject is the following. We're looking at the estimates right now, according to CBP, is 13,000 plus immigrants per day crossing the border once Title 42 comes up. We get people that have traveled thousands of miles, some under great duress, some under a great cost to them, They're lining up at the border because they've been told by our president, our government, our own government is telling them they're welcome to come into this country. I think it's too late to be frank with you. I think the gross influx of refugees or people who want to come in, they're not even refugees, but I think it's going to happen regardless. It's just too close and too late. And now Mayorkas is scheduled to go to the border tomorrow. I don't know what good he's going to do. He may just say the border's secure. I think it's a little too late to do anything about the May 11th date. That's where I'm coming from. And again, I think the media is reporting on this, but they're reporting on it in a very positive way. They're showing the poor mothers with the poor babies and the fathers who mortgaged everything. Enough already. We in this country, our lifestyle is about to change dramatically. Stop and think for a minute what it's going to cost to provide housing, to provide food, to provide cell phones, to provide healthcare, to provide education. We're looking at trillions and trillions of dollars at a time when we just don't have it. This is the wrong time to do the right thing.
Kathy, the final word's going to go to you here today. The United States Supreme Court actually extended Title 42 a few months ago. It was supposed to end a few months ago, but the deadline's coming up again next week, May 11th. The state of emergency nationally is also over next week as declared by President Biden. Do you have any hope that the court will step in and intervene?
I wish it would. I see the court as being good on some things and bad on the others. I don't know if they're going to make a difference in the border problem or not. I could go on about this subject for a long, long time because I have strong feelings about immigration in general in this country, and people that live here and people that don't and people that want to. But all that be as it may, I do fear that the Supreme Court, which can and could do something, doesn't do enough.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill, for bringing such a noble and esteemed group to us once again for our Boomer Zoomer segment.
Wait, Mike, wait. I brought Ken. What are you saying those things, Ron? I brought Ken today. Noble and esteemed. Come on.
He's our jokester.
You guys are jokesters, I'll tell you that. But Bill, thank you. Kathy,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Ken, thank you. We'll see you in a few weeks again.
Yes, you will. Thank you very much. So
All right,
long.
and folks, thank you for tuning in today to In the Dugout here on the Ocean State Current. Again, thanks to our esteemed seniors down at the Charlestown Senior Center for our bi-monthly Boomer Zoomer segment. So for In the Dugout, Mike Steno's out. See you next game.